Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Well, suffice to say, 2023 didn't go exactly as they thought it might there in Charlotte. Remember, the Panthers were a 7-win team the year before. They traded up to get their franchise quarterback. You had a new offensive-minded head coach coming in. There was reason for optimism. And, boy, did that turn sour. For the second consecutive year, Panthers are in the market for a new head coach. I think it's fair to say there's questions about Bryce Young and his future and what may go down there with the Panthers. Let's head up to Charlotte. Mark Yarbro, 7:30 The Game. Good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Mark, we appreciate it, man. Happy New Year. How are you?
Good, Matt. How are you doing? Thank you for being so kind with those words about the Panthers. Yes, it was a little bit left to be desired in 2023, no doubt.
What is the vibe around the franchise right now, considering how the season went? You got the owner throwing drinks at fans and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, Matt, it's not good. It's, every fan base wants to have hope. That's all you're looking for. Even when things are not good, you're like, well, is there hope? Is there hope in the future? And, normally if you have a year like the Panthers had, you could say, okay, yeah, this year sucked, but we've got a high first-round pick. We can maybe, get things turned around in the right direction. Well, not in this case. We all know the story. The Panthers traded that pick to the Bears to move up to take Bryce Young, so they don't even have that to fall back on. They won't have a pick, obviously, until the second round, which will basically be a late first-round pick, but still, it's not like having a pick in the very beginning of the draft. So there's not much. The vibe's not good, Matt. There's not much hope right now, and it goes back to ownership, Matt, and that's where it starts. All the troubles here start with David Tepper. He is the linchpin. He is the one constant in this disaster of a season. And, the seasons that we've had here is David Tepper has been the constant. He changed coaches, changed quarterbacks, you got to change GMs, but he's been the one constant. And I think the fans pretty much feel like as long as he has his fingerprints all over everything, that not much is going to change.
We're watching the video of the interaction with the fan where he threw the drink. It is bizarre because you would normally think, Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, that when you have an owner that is that wealthy, willing to spend and motivated to win, typically that's a good thing, right? But it doesn't feel like that's the case here. Why is it not?
Because I think he is, and the problem is, Matt, he also owns Charlotte FC franchise here in town, the soccer team. So it's been a track record with them too. He's changed coaches twice already there. It's just a lot of people don't feel like he knows what he's doing. And I use this. I may have even used this analogy the last time I was on with you. We were talking. I always go back to the Atlanta Braves, and for years the Braves were terrible. I mean, they were the laughing stock of baseball. And finally, Ted Turner, when he owned the Braves, realized, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm going to hire some people who do know. So he went and hired John Sherholtz away from the Kansas City Royals to be his GM. He put Bobby Cox back on the field as the manager. And the rest is history. Well, we know what happened to the Braves when John Sherholtz and Bobby Cox became a team. They fortunate to turn around. And Ted Turner got out of the way. That was the key part of the whole thing. Ted Turner got out of the way and let them guys do their job. And I think David Tepper has got to learn that. He hasn't learned that yet. And, yeah, it's great to have an owner that's passionate and willing to spend money. But go back to Washington, Matt, and look what Dan Snyder did. He did the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And he was passionate. He grew up a Redskins fan, the Redskins at the time. Bought the Redskins. Had a ton of money. But he didn't know how to use it wisely. He didn't know what he was doing, and there's still, to this moment, the ramifications of that are still going on. And I think a lot of people fear this is exactly what's happening here. And you see the comparisons already. People are comparing David Tepper to Dan Snyder. And, Matt, that's not somebody you want to be compared to.
Sure.
That's not a comparison that you want on your resume when people say, yeah, he reminds me of Dan Snyder. And unfortunately right now, that's where a lot of people, think this franchise is heading. And, yeah, there's the hope is there's not much hope right now that this is going to get turned around anytime soon.
That is an interesting comp. Is there Mark Yarbro is with a 7:30 game there in Charlotte. Is the head coach or figuring out Bryce Young more important for this franchise right now?
It feels like they could go hand in hand, Matt, but I think you've got to figure out if Bryce Young is your guy going forward. Because, let's say, middle of next year and Bryce Young is still where he's at right now, then you got a problem. And your hope is whoever the new coach is comes in, and whether he is an offensive guy and is going to have, a lot to do with Bryce, or if he's a defensive guy and the OC is going to be the guy that has a lot to do with Bryce. You've got to get that straight. You gave up too much to get Bryce Young, which again, personally, I'm not just saying this after what we saw him do Saturday, what he did on Saturday. C.J. Stroud would have been my pick. I wanted C.J. Stroud. Bobby Brzezinski, who I work with on the show, wanted C.J. Stroud. David Tepper wanted Bryce Young, and that's why Bryce Young is here in Charlotte. It's Frank Reich. I stand by this. I don't believe he wanted Bryce Young. I believe he wanted C.J. Stroud. But in the end, we know who's going to win that decision is going to go with David Tepper. David Tepper wanted Bryce Young. So they have got – it has to work. They gave up too much, and if it doesn't work, it's going to go down as, one of the worst moves ever in the league for what they gave up. And don't forget, they give up a guy like a DJ Moore. When you look at what Bryce Young didn't have to work with at receiver this year, and I all along felt like maybe Brian Burns should have been the one that got dealt, not DJ Moore, but they went with DJ Moore. They gave up the picks, and obviously so far it has not worked out well.
Who are the head coaching targets? I know last year they interviewed Jim Harbaugh last year. Is he in play? Who appears to be in play most commonly that you all talk about there in Charlotte?
Matt, last year, Ben Johnson was a guy that I personally hoped that was going to end up being the head coach here. He obviously did not even agree to an interview. He decided to pass on even the interview process, so that didn't happen. But I look at Ben Johnson as David Tepper's white whale right now. He's the guy that I think David Tepper would love to get. It doesn't feel like that's going to happen. It feels like reading the tea leaves, trying to connect dots. Sure feels like a lot of people think Ben Johnson's going to end up in Washington. So, that may not even be a chance of happening again this year. I don't think Harbaugh's in play here. I know he interviewed with the Chargers today. I really don't think that David Tepper is going to be able to get one of those guys, a Harbaugh, a Belichick, even a Mike Vrabel. I don't know if he would be able to land because I just think people are reluctant to work with David Tepper. Frank Smith, the Dolphins OC, is a guy that I think could end up, being in play here before it's over. Obviously, they've already interviewed some other candidates, a couple that are already on this. Obviously, Chris Tabor, who was the interim coach, did interview last week. Yarbro of the DC also interviewed. But I think right now, if I had to put who I think David Tepper would love, I think Ben Johnson's still that guy. Excuse me. I just don't know if he's going to be able to land him again.
It is going to be an interesting offseason for the second consecutive year there in Charlotte. He's Mark Yarbro, 7:30 the game there, ESPN Charlotte. We appreciate it, Mark. Thanks so much for the time, man.
Matt, you got it, buddy. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.